My name is Matt Maxwell, and I'm the product manager for the Tektronix real-time spectrum analyzers. So I'm also the product manager for the new RSA306 USB powered and controlled spectrum analyzer.
Well, thank you for talking to us today, Matt. And most of my followers have seen this product in great detail. We've taken it apart. I've shown how to use it. And tell me a little bit about how this product came along. I mean, when did Tektronix say we want to build something like this and why?
Right, that's a good question. So we actually saw kind of an opportunity in the marketplace where there's a lot of attention being paid to higher performance spectrum analyzers. It's almost, we think, a little bit overkill for what people actually need in most cases.
Right.
People, whether it's R&D or out in the field. So we have some excellent software that we've been developing since about 2006. So whatever that is, 9 years or so now of software development on our benchtop real-time spectrum analyzers. So we decided we'd make a USB-powered one that is obviously powered and controlled. Your audience has seen that.
Yes.
And it takes advantage of that software. We had a wise software engineer that actually retired now, but he had the idea when he he architected a lot of the original SignalView software, the software we know today as SignalView, to be able to detach from the instrument and work on a PC. So that's why we see the SignalView software on oscilloscopes. We've had that for a number of years, but now on PCs and connecting to the analyzer. So it's the ability to take that software anywhere, and obviously you need to have PCs that can handle that can not only run basic analysis, but it's really the real time.
Yes, and I've shown that on my blog, and the software is really a good point. I mean, this is nothing new. There's plenty of spectrum analyzers out there that are in some sort of fashion connect through USB, but number one, the real-time aspect, then the bandwidth, the real-time bandwidth. Is it in this revision still 40 megahertz?
It is still 40 megahertz, yep.
Okay, sweet. And of course the software, you see, especially cheap Chinese products, what you often see is a kind of decent product, and then the software really sucks. So SignalView is a product, like you said, has been around for a while. It's well established. Engineers know how to use it. It's just a different interface. And
exactly.
Yep, very nice. Okay, cool. So two of the main applications that I see being pushed by Tektronix as far as marketing goes is EMI hunting and, of course, interference with the mapping functions. Let's talk about both of those. Let's start with EMI. So how would this help me in regards of pre-compliance and other issues?
So obviously EMI is a pretty large topic, and obviously that is not a CISPR 16-1-1 compliant receiver.
Right.
So there's a lot of, I think, potential pain, but definitely time that is spent to make sure devices in R&D pass EMI testing. And it can be really helpful if the R&D engineer can have a reasonable expectation that their final device under test is going to pass and get EMI certified. So the idea here is you can do some CISPR tests, so CISPR peak tests in particular, which an EMI compliant receiver would use a quasi-peak detector. This analyzer doesn't have one of those right now. That's something we could add in the software, and when we think about that. But even if it did, I guess that's sort of an aside. But with a CISPR peak detector, it's a more conservative approach, meaning if you see a violation over an EMI limit line, it's not necessarily going to cause a device failure. So it really gives you a quick and easy way to test whether or not you're going to pass EMI compliance, obviously without certification, but to give a quick and easy check.
Very nice. And Alan Walke, we all know him, W2AW on the internet, has shown us how to do that. He has used I think it was the MDO 3000 or the 4000 with EMI probes. He's shown us some about that, so definitely worth checking out. Okay, so second topic would be interference hunting, and I've shown the mapping software on my blog before, how to set it up and how to import maps. But tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have the SignalView software. One of the options for that is called mapping, or RSA map. And that allows you to bring in up to 6 different measurements from SignalView, including the real-time measurement and a signal strength measurement. And basically it allows you, when you're locked to a GPS device, to plot the measurements on a map. So you can start to do things like coverage testing or even basic signal interference hunting. So you can draw lines of bearing right now. And so it's a nice package for software for both interference hunting and for coverage mapping or any kind of field spectrum analysis where you might need to have location-based measurements.
And I've actually used this application twice in real field applications. Number one was, I'm an amateur radio operator, that's obvious, and I had extreme noise in the lower HF bands, high frequency bands, and it turned out that was one of the neighbor's plasma TVs, and I actually used a magnet loop antenna and the RSA306 in the car. Now I didn't have to drive far, so it was really a little bit overkill. But the next application that I had, a local fire department approached me, and they had channel noise on one of their analog repeaters, and I couldn't figure out what it was or where it was coming from, and we couldn't decode the data because it was encrypted on that system, so we didn't know what it was.
Right.
I mean, we could classify the modulation, all that, but we still didn't know who it was or what it was. Well, it turned out to be a local company that used their trunking system, so I will actually make a video of that. I did film everything, I just haven't edited yet, so we'll see it on the blog very shortly.
Cool.
I'm sure you have some success stories for us to hear about too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So one story we have is, won't name the name of the company, but they're doing kind of wireless R&D, and they have a lab full of equipment, which is expected, and they don't really need more lab-based spectrum analyzers. But what they have is a situation like many other companies where they have to go to China to check the manufacturing line, or they have to go to sales meetings all over East Coast or other parts of the world. And so all the engineers now are able to have their own spectrum analyzer they can put in their briefcase or their backpack or whatever and take with them. So you have a situation now where it's become highly portable for the R&D guy when he heads out to manufacturing to correlate results if there's problems, or some other place where he needs to talk about the technology or set up a network or something like that. Can bring a spectrum analyzer along with him.
That's a really nice application. I didn't even think about that. One thing I did on a flight to New York not too long ago, I hooked up the RSA306 in flight.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how much activity is on the GSM phone bands. You know, most people don't switch their cell phones off. And you can see all that. You can see everything that goes on. It's very interesting. I should have made a video, but I didn't bother with screen capture, and the head stewardess got kind of uneasy about me having this box with an antenna sitting on the table anyway.